Hello, everybody. I'm Dan Murrell.
And I'm Roth Cornet.
Roth, after the 1-2 punch of Star Wars and Cats, we decided to end out the year as far as our reviews go. There's going to be programming across the Screen Junkies channels and Fandom Entertainment over the break. But as far as reviews go, we decided to end the year on a movie actually I haven't talked to you about yet. It's a movie I saw a little while ago, and I really liked. You just had the chance to see it yesterday. 1917, directed by Sam Mendes, well, I'll let you start, Roth. Go ahead. What do you think?
I think this is without any question one of, if not the best movies of the year. And you had said you need to go see this in a theater. You absolutely must.
I felt a little bad because yes, Roth asked if I had a screener for this movie, and I said, I'm not going to give it to you because you have to see it in the theater.
Which, you know what? I have to thank you because it's true. It really is true. I think that this movie is strong enough that that it would still work at home and that people should see it. But to see it in the theater is really how this is meant to be seen. And not every movie that's particularly the case. In this case, it is meant to be seen this way. And the thing I think everyone is going to say about this, which is true, is that this is a remarkable technical achievement, which it is. However, my worry with that, and by the way, Roger Deakins is just showing off in this movie. He's just showing off.
He got that Oscar last year or 2 years ago, and now he's just like...
He said, hold my beer to himself.
Yeah. If he doesn't win, if this movie does not win the Academy Award for Best Cinematography, something is wrong.
So everything is broken in the world.
Yes.
It is unbelievable cinematic achievement, unbelievable achievement of cinematography, but also I just want to underscore the sound design is incredible when and how they use music, because they're playing against your expectations with when and how they use music and sound elements. It builds and builds and builds where you think a big climactic event may happen, but it happens, but the big climactic event will happen maybe off camera in a very subtle way that is far more jarring to the system than if it had been on the nose. I think this is the final thing I want to say, and then we should probably set up what the movie is about.
Sure.
Because I haven't done that yet. What I'm worried that people will take away is that it's only a technical achievement, and that's not true.
Yes.
This is everything that filmmaking should be. Character is revealed through action. The plot... I don't think I've seen in a movie in a long time where character, story, plot, and the technical elements were as in cohesion as they are in this film. You follow a journey, and the stakes are very high. They couldn't be higher. And everything that is revealed about the nature of the emotional stakes is through the action and through the behavior, and the behavior is informed and very based in reality. It is an incredibly human movie. It is so well acted. It is so beautifully told. It is so effective. And it is a movie that's about war. And you walk away with it never wanting, and particularly because it's World War I, which we know was so pointless. Never wanting any human being to have to experience anything like that again. Now, we're never going to get that world, sadly. But this is truly one of the most imbalanced, and I mean by every element of the movie, and high-level films I have ever seen. This is his magnum opus.
I mean, it is
Sam Mendes.
I agree. Sam Mendes, Roger Deakins, you name it. If you're not familiar with when we say the technical feat of it, it's set during World War I, 1917.
Thank you,
set during World War I, and the film is constructed to appear to be. I'm sure that it's impossible for it to actually have been, but it appears to be
one shot. A few.
Two constructed. There's a little bit of a break, and then you go to the third act. But it essentially looks like an unbroken shot from beginning to end,
and
with
it doesn't
one
feel
little
like a gimmick.
gap. And it doesn't. And that's where I think the distinction is this could have felt very gimmicky if there'd been no meat on the bone. It would have been an impressive technical achievement, but that would have been it. I think what this movie achieves, and I'm gonna at the risk of reopening this Pandora's box, but when Dunkirk came out, and a lot of the narrative was when in my review, and I think you shared some of these feelings, I said I think it was an amazing technical achievement, but it felt very cold to me because it didn't have that humanity to it, and people said, well, that's not what it's about. I think that this movie actually was able to capture what I think a lot of other people saw in Dunkirk, which to me is, it's not necessarily about the characters in the sense that like there's an overriding plot structure to their they have motivation certainly, but it is very much more about the experience of war and what it's like and the brutality of it, the unfairness of it. This to me nailed that balance of it's about war, but it also has characters in it that you care about, but it's not wrapped up in, necessarily their internal motivation all the time. I think it balanced that a little bit more than other movies have. At the risk of, I always try to explain this difference, and people say it's pretentious, but I do think there's and this is not a negative thing. I think there's a difference between movies and cinema, and this sounds, whatever you can, whatever it said. But like for me, I'm going to take example of two films that I enjoyed. Spider-Man: Far From Home, which I really, really liked, is to me a movie. This is cinema. And this is the use of this because it uses the tools of filmmaking to what I believe are the peak of its ability currently. I think that 1917 is the peak of what's possible right now cinematically.
Yeah, I think that here's, I don't know that I make those distinctions, to be honest, but I do think that when we look at different movies, they serve different purposes.
Yes.
And Spider-Man: Far From Home has a lot of purposes for the studio, for us, the audience.
And by the way, this is not me telling other people what to think. This is how I myself categorize films, is when I'm thinking of them is movies and cinema, and you can cross over. There's a lot of great cinematic films that are great movies, and there's a lot of really great movies that are extremely cinematic. But I think that, as in my internal dialogue, I think there's a distinction line in my thinking.
No, I hear you. I mean, for me, Spider-Man: Far From Home is a piece of entertainment that is there to give us a few hours of joy. And I think that's actually incredibly valuable in the world, personally, because a lot of times we need that, I think there's movies that question what the purpose of a film. If you look at my biggest example of that is Wonderland and Boogie Nights. One I think is great, but in Boogie Nights, but it's very much a piece of entertainment. Wonderland is a deconstruction of what happened in those people's lives and the pure ugliness of it. This movie, 1917, I think is a movie that, like I said, I don't think I've ever seen anything quite so balanced, where every decision is with purpose. Every decision, it's like the movie itself and the way that it is made is reflective of how the choices were being made. Everything is driven with purpose. Every piece of dialogue, every use of the camera, every use of sound, every acting choice is there to reveal more about this journey. And because he places you, Sam Mendes and Roger Deakins, they place you in the perspective as if you were taking the journey literally with these characters. That's why it's built to be one shot, to look like it's a couple of shots.
It's motivated.
It's motivated.
Yes.
That's what every single decision is motivated by character and story. And that is what makes this special. Because there's very few movies where that is true all of the time. That is true almost none of the time with certain filmmakers, and that's true most of the time with other filmmakers. This is true all of the time. And because you are in the perspective with them, as if you were going with them, at the end of the day, it is a movie about war, but it's a movie about what would you do to avoid having to live through this level of fear.
Right. And
why should anyone have to endure it?
It just does the thing between this movie and a film for me. Again, personal example, the way I feel, but a film like Birdman, which also had many extended takes in it. But I felt, as of just subjectively, that they're impressive. But what what's the overall decision making other than to be impressive?
Yeah.
This didn't feel like showy. It didn't feel like showing off. This movie, if it were done conventionally, would not have the same impact. It would not work the same.
Yeah.
Because it is so much about the fog of war. And, war is hell. We know that. There's been countless movies made about how war is hell, but by just putting you into it and seeing what it's like to have those blinders on,
for a regular soldier,
for a regular soldier to only see what's in front of them at any given moment. There's never a time where you widen out and see the generals planning stuff.
Or if you do, it's because that character is in that experience and only briefly and only gets so much information. It's not a lot. Colin
Firth is in this movie. Benedict Cumberbatch is in this movie. And they're both there very briefly. And if this were the alternate version of this movie, they would be the stars.
Yes.
But that's not what this movie's about.
And it wouldn't be as good.
It wouldn't be as good. It would be a very conventional World War I war drama, very impressive, I think, very impressive looking. But this isn't in a lot, I think, because it's not out yet and it's not as buzzy as some of the other ones. And I really hope this doesn't fly completely under the radar as far as box office goes, but even as far as awards goes, I think this is really flying under the radar.
I think my theater was about a quarter of the way full at my screening, and I was so sad. I was
sad.
So heartbroken that critics didn't come out to see this movie. I was so sad.
It is. I agree with you. It is one of the, if not the best movie of the year. For me, Parasite is, it really is incredible. And that was the one where I thought nothing can unseat this for me. It may, because I really think it's not just one of the I have to see it again. I think it's really not one of the best movies of the year. I honestly think it's one of the best of the decade. I think this movie is incredible on every single level because I care so deeply. Not only is it technically brilliant, not only is it executed with near to perfection, honestly, in every level, but I cared so profoundly about the human story. Yeah. And no one had to tell me this person's life. There was no exposition about the background. Everything was revealed in the actions and the choices and the pain and the fear and how they moved through that. And I think that's what makes it really special. It is. That's really what underscores it is it really does nail that thing between the technical expertise of making a great looking war film and knowing how to feature characters in ways that make you empathize with them and not just watch a bunch of technical wizardry on the screen. It's not an easy balance. It's really not. But Sam Mendes nails it. I agree. He's made some great movies. This is the one you put up on the shelf. Yeah. This is his opus.
This is it. This is the one that represents, I think, if I were him, I would. I don't know. I almost worry he's going to go into a depression afterwards because
he pulled it off.
Because he pulled it off, and it's so good. And I think because he uses unconventional choices about the sound design and when it's peaking and when it's not, and when music is used and when it's not, and where the camera is looking because it's in the perspective of the character. Yeah. You are on the edge of your seat. It's so full of tension because you truly don't know. Yeah. There's nothing to warn you. There's nothing to tip you off about when the danger will come. It's so it's not mundane, but it's so organic in the world, and that's probably what it feels like.
And again, that's using form using the form to inform how you're staging the events. Because I agree, there are moments where it's just buildup. Yeah. Where because they're using it, they're not cutting away. You'll be crossing a bridge or pushing a truck or whatever, these things that might seem mundane, but because the situation that they're in, because you care about this character.
And danger is around literally every corner.
Could be lurking anywhere. It's inherently suspenseful. Yeah. And he uses this form to his advantage by establishing all of that in a very subjective point. I mean, it doesn't cheat and like zoom out into the world and zoom back in. Most of it is there. Almost documentary closeness, not style as far as, but like it's very smooth but it doesn't cheat and try to,
no, and something horrible might happen when the person's not looking, and they may just hear it, And there's nothing that could impress me more about the choices he made as a filmmaker in this movie, and that the team that he assembled to be able to pull it off, like the talent that is Roger Deakins, who frankly, again, is just showing off. Yeah. But he's doing what Mendes asked him to do. These are his choices. This feels to me very much an auteur. Roger Deakins deserves incredible accolades, but very much an auteur film in that you can tell he's the one driving this bus. He's making these choices, and they are very smart choices. I want to apologize to you and the viewers for using the word organic and never say it again. But
I'm fine with that.
But at the end of the day, if somebody wanted to make sort of, I hate to say this, but like a condemnation of war, I don't think it's that. I think it's an examination that places it in a war that clearly he had a connection to through his family, but that we all agree was pointless and so many people died. And it never takes the bird's eye view of that. It just says, what would it be like to be a soldier in that and to look at this wasteland that you're dying and fighting for?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that it is, with Mendes and Deakins particularly, it feels like the best movies, it feels like everyone is a team. So you see things like on Saving Private Ryan with Spielberg and Janusz Kaminski, or on any number of movies with Scorsese and Thelma Schoonmaker. Yeah. Yes, they are individual craftspeople and artisans, but when you nail it, everyone feels like they're on one team. They're working together. They're on the same page. That's what this movie feels like. Obviously, it's a big recommendation, but not just a recommendation. Go out.
Yeah, if you can.
And see
I hope you can.
It opens in limited release, I think, right around Christmas, to qualify for the Oscars. It hits wide release early next year here in North America, so you may have to wait a little bit into the new year to see it. But once it does expand wide, as much as I've recommended any movie this year, I'm recommending this movie.
I think we're gonna have to demand. No, we can't demand anything.
Send us your addresses. We're gonna come to your house, escort you to the theater, and make sure you stay.
One by one, we're gonna go door to door. I feel so strongly about this movie. I really do, and I agree with you. You forced me to see it in the theaters. You were right, and you guys should be forced to. It's so, and what we clearly have meant, but haven't overtly said, is that the performances in this movie are also extraordinary, and it's very much dependent on them too to pull it off.
It's kind of a thankless task in the sense that because, and it's not fair because they're not quote unquote movie stars.
Yeah, but they will be.
They will be.
I hope.
Yeah, but they're really good. But it's all you think you have to kind of know that because there's so much going on that they might be lost in the shuffle. They are only because so much of the other parts of the film is equally as impressive or more so. I'm glad. I'm honestly, I felt bad about, as you put it, screener shaming you.
Yes.
So I'm glad at least that it paid off.
No, it was correct. It was the right choice. Yeah, I think this movie doesn't exist without those performances, because think about the challenge. Yeah. You have to hit your marks. You can't mess up what the camera is doing, and you have to be in these stakes. So I couldn't really encourage you and beg you and plead with you to go find this movie when it's available in your area and go see it. It's genuinely one of the best of the year. I think one of the best of the decade. I still have to sit on everything else, but this is pretty high up for me.
It's high up there. It is. It really is a masterclass. And that is our last recommendation of 2019.
I know.
Roth, we'll be back in 2020 with more reviews. And
we ended on a high note.
Obviously, from this review, this movie, I think, is going to be on both of our lists of our favorite movies of the year. But that won't happen until after we come back, because there's so many things that come out at the end of the year. We're both still trying to catch up. We don't want to. We want to see as many movies as we can. We'd hate to have an incomplete list.
You don't want an incomplete list.
So we will be back in 2020 with more reviews and with our 10 favorite, or 20. It's going to be tough. with a list of favorites.
We can cheat.
We can cheat like we did last year and just switch some off.
We switch them off, so we get them all in.
I don't know, though. There's a lot this year that I
don't know.
I have to have it, so we'll see.
All right.
Roth, it's been a great year reviewing with you. I look forward to 2020.
Yes. And we hope you guys have a happy holiday and a great new year.
Thanks for watching.